Want to elevate your decorating? Start with 8 furniture legs from Home Depot for this easy and gorgeous idea. I'm using pliers to remove all the leg hardware by clamping down on the bolts, then twisting the legs until they come loose. Landing 2 old cabinet doors in the same style but in 2 different sizes, I'm placing the small door under the large one, then positioning 2 legs on both sides to ensure the smaller door fits within the legs. Now I'm flipping the doors good side down and removing any obstacles such as felt bumpers. Next, I'm cleaning the doors with Fusion's TSP alternative. I love this cleaner since it's non-toxic and doesn't require rinsing. Since these doors are painted MDF, I'm scuff sanding the original finish to prepare them for repainting. Since the doors used to have handles, I'm scraping over the holes to smooth them out, then filling them in with wood filler. After it dries in about 15 minutes, I'm sanding over any filler. Now I'm marking out the placement for all the legs. With the doors facing good side down, I'm stacking them with the smaller door on top of the larger. I'm positioning the long legs on the large door in all 4 corners. Now I'm drilling holes through all the leg center marks, making sure the chosen drill is slightly larger than the screws I plan to use. Since drilling chipped the door finish a little, I'm using some wood putty to fill it back in, then sanding it once dry. After dusting off the doors, I'm selecting a warm white paint called Raw Silk by Fusion Mineral Paint. I'm painting both doors in the same color, starting with the indented areas first, then all the flat areas. I'm ending the painting in long, even end-to-end strokes without stopping to help avoid brush strokes. After the paint dries, I'm choosing a stencil called Café by Funky Junk's Old Sign Stencils to add some interesting detail to the doors, which I'll be stenciling in Fusion's Coal Black. Loading a dome-tipped stencil brush with paint, I'm removing most of the paint until the brush feels dry to the touch. This step is important to avoid any paint bleed. Now I'm tapping the paint through the stencil by moving the brush in all open areas first, then going over the area again in swirling motions to smooth out the finish. To coordinate, I'm choosing to stencil a coffee cup and checkered border in the middle of the small door. Placing some masking tape on the stencil where I wish to stop the stencil helps to avoid any mistakes. Once the paint is dry, I'm now installing the legs. I'm selecting a screw that is long enough to sit inside the hole of the legs while still clearing the door thickness. To prep the legs for easier screwing, I'm drilling a hole into each leg using a drill bit smaller than my screws. From the top of the door, I'm slipping in a screw and lining it up to a leg placed underneath the door. Using short controlled bursts with a cordless drill, I'm holding the leg in place while screwing the leg to the door until it's tight. The screws on top can be painted, or wood shapes or plugs can be painted, then hot glued into place if desired. However, I decided to leave the screws exposed since they married the graphics. And the end result are 2 adorable door risers that will elevate any of your home decor you wish to display. The coordinating black graphics against the warm white doors really pops, while keeping the overall look super neutral and easy to work with. And the woodsy toned legs add some rustic warmth that marry my wood kitchen cabinets and wood floors really well.
Turn your box of extra table legs and parts into something gorgeous. First up, I want to flatten the round end out on this one a little bit. Along with my table legs, I've also grabbed some empty wooden spools. These will allow me to slip the leg screws right down into the hole, and I won't have to worry about removing those screws. I'm using contact cement to attach all my pieces together. I want to start with the main pieces and stack them up. Now that the main pieces are together, I want to add a base and a top. I had a stack of these flower pot bases, and they're going to be perfect. With everything nice and secure, I want to paint the pieces all white. Painting them with one color will make them look really cohesive instead of a bunch of random things stuck together. I'll have to do probably 3 coats of paint to have it look nice and even. To give my new pieces a worn and weathered look, I want to distress them. I'm using that same gritty sandpaper to distress the high parts. I want to keep the distressing to the edges and the parts that stick out the most so that it looks natural. To style my new candle holders, I want to put the tallest one in the middle. Groups of 3 always help to make something look balanced, so I always try to put 3 things together. I love adding natural elements to my decor, So I'm going to add some dried moss to the top of the candle holders. Next, I'm going to add my candles. I want to keep them all a similar color so they look really nice together. I've chosen some lovely cream ones that I can place right onto the dried moss. I'm so glad I saved these old table legs and parts and could turn them into something so pretty. I hope this has inspired you to turn your old table legs into something lovely as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Home Talk. I'll see you next time.
Grab some wood bun-shaped table legs. Take one of the wood legs and with some pliers unscrew the screw from the leg. Take a second bun foot and screw it into the vacant hole of the first foot. Take the third bun foot and remove its screw as well. With a spade drill bit, I used a 7/8 inch bit, and drill a hole about 3/4 to 1 inch deep. With the large drilled hole on top, glue the third bun foot to the top of the other two stacked bun feet. Stain your new candle holder by brushing wood stain onto the wood and then wiping away the excess stain with a cloth. Place a taper candle into the candle holder and enjoy the warm glow of your new candlestick decor. Grab a single chunky wood table leg. While you're at it, grab a 12-inch wood round. Remove the screw from the bottom of the wood leg with a pair of pliers. Cut up an old white t-shirt, cotton works best, into small cloths. Then elevate the wood round and the table leg so they are up off the table. Dip one of your white rags into the wood stain and wipe it across the top of the wood round. Apply with the wood grain for an even coat. Wipe any excess away with the cloth. Because the leg has more details to the wood, you may need to wipe the stain into the nooks and crannies of the wood. Once dry, flip the table leg upside down and glue to the center of the wood round. This means you're attaching the most narrow end of the table leg to the center of the wood round. Display it with candles and greenery for a cozy decor display in your home.
I had an idea for a cute snowman project, so I headed over to my local lumber store and picked out some wood spindles. Then I had my husband cut them out for me. Next, give them a good thick coat of white paint on all sides. Now it is time to give them character and dress them. Before we clothe them, we will put their faces on. I freehanded their faces, but if you need some inspiration, search up snowman face on the internet and you will find all sorts of cute expressions. My snow family consists of a dad, mom, brother, and little sister. I chose to give each a different expression and one that was fitting for their personality. When all of their faces were done, it was time to dress them. For the father, I created a long toque by cutting a piece of cotton fabric that reached around the top of the snowman head. Start gluing at the front by gluing the middle of the fabric to the front of the snowman head. Then glue the seam of the toque all the way to the end. Next, glue on a piece of jute ribbon as trim for the toque. You may need to double up the ribbon so that the fabric won't show through, as I had to. Next, bend over the end of the toque, tie it with twine, and snip off the excess twine. Next, glue on brown jingle bells as buttons. Lastly, cut a strip of the same fabric and make it into a scarf for the father. Tack it in places with the hot glue so that it lays nicely. For the mum, I created her hat out of a 2-inch wide piece of jute ribbon. First, cut a piece long enough for her hat. Next, fold the end of the ribbon and glue it to the back of her head. Then trim the toque with a decorative piece of ribbon and glue it all the way around with the seam at the back. Then tie the top with a piece of twine and trim the excess. I cut long strips at the end of the toque. Next, cut a piece of ribbon long enough to make a scarf and glued on a couple of rusty jingle bells as buttons. Follow the same instructions for the little boy and girl snowmen. Now it's time to enjoy. Set them up in a little wintry spot, in a place where everyone can see them and admire them.